Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all well today and excited for a video talking all things eyeshadow. I am doing an update on my eyeshadow roulette today. This is only, well, it's kind of my first update, but it's the second video in this series so far in 2025. The gist of it, if you didn't watch the previous one, which you probably should do, so I will link that here, is that I have 12 eyeshadow palettes in my collection, which equals one per month. And so what I'm doing is focusing on one single eyeshadow per month in 2025 and figuring out which ones I love, which ones I don't love, which ones I should declutter, and which ones I really need to get more use out of because I like them more than I thought I did. At least that's the idea. Things haven't gone completely according to plan so far in 2025. We will get into that, but it is currently end of May while I am filming this, and so I have had my January, February, March, April, and May eyeshadow palettes so far. Yeah, I've got a lot to discuss and a lot to explain in terms of why things have not been going so great and why I haven't managed to declutter any palettes so far in 2025. You see, I think I set expectations for myself badly because I did a blush roulette in 2024, which went so well to the point that I'm doing it again in 2025, and that is what inspired this eyeshadow project pan. I will link the 2024 blush roulette playlist here. I decluttered 4 blushes in 2024 because of that blush roulette. I was just super motivated to get blushes out that I didn't love or use. I was like, why am I keeping these in my collection? I never reach for them organically. And so the idea was, hey, let's do the same thing with eyeshadow palettes because I have a lot of eyeshadow palettes that I don't reach for organically. I don't get very much use out of. And this will be a great opportunity to figure out which palettes do not deserve a place in my collection. However, it has not gone the same route as my blush roulette, and I think I figured out why that is. Essentially, it boils down to the fact that eyeshadow palettes are varied, right? Let's take this one, which is the one that I was most certain that I was going to declutter. This is from ColourPop. It is called The Golden State of Mind. Look at all these shades. There's 15, it was like quick math, 15 shades here, okay? And a lot of them I don't use. I don't love or reach for, but there's 15, which means there is a significant chance that there's going to be some shades that I love. Let's take this palette. This was the third one that I worked on this month, the March eyeshadow roulette. This one, it has 9 shades, so not as many, but still 9 different potential shades that I could enjoy and love. And because they are such big ones, it means that I could use them for different things. These two, they're great for blushes, and they're actually the size of some of my blushes. This one is great as a liner shade. These two could work as bronzers. Probably more this one because it's a bit lighter. But there is a lot of potential for shades that I love. Now, if we're thinking about blushes, of the blushes that I decluttered last year, 2 of them were single blushes and 2 of them were blush palettes. And with the 2 single blushes, it was only 1 shade. Maybe that's obvious, but what I mean by that is if I didn't love the shade, then it was easy to say, this is not something I reach for, I don't enjoy it, and I can declutter it. But with this, if there's 1 shade I don't like, then that's easy to discount because that means that there's potentially 8 other shades that I do like. If there's a whole row that I don't like, that still means that there's 2 rows that I do like. It's a much harder decision to make because you're essentially deciding how many of these shades you do like versus how many you don't, and if it is worth it to declutter the whole palette because of the shades that you don't like. Now, I know it's possible to depot some of the shades, especially with ColourPop palettes. I've heard that the shades are easy to depot, but I know myself, and I just don't think that I would reach for depotted shades. I don't have that many eyeshadow singles, and the ones that I do have, I really don't reach for. I just find it a lot more challenging, with the exception of like maybe 1 or 2 of my eyeshadow singles. I just don't reach for them. And I think also because I don't have a palette into which I could depot them, I know that there's an extra barrier, because then I have to make that decision of which palette do I get, what size, what brand, how am I going to get them out? You know, is it going to be complicated to like depot them? Like, it's not as simple as being like, okay, I'll just depot the ones I like. It's a bigger decision to depot individual shades than it is to just decide to declutter. So wherever possible, I have leaned much more towards decluttering rather than depotting shades. Now, for sure, I depot individual products. Like this right here is a depotted highlight. But if we're talking about depotting, you know, potentially 4 shades, 6 shades in one palette, it's like, oh my God, I would just rather decide to keep it or declutter it. Everyone has different habits and different preferences, and I know a lot of people, again, love depotting. I've gotten that suggestion so many times, but right now, this is just what I feel like works for me, decluttering or keeping. I felt like I needed to do that disclaimer about the shades, but it was just easier to decide with the blushes because, at least for 2 of them, they were individual. So if I didn't like the color, then that was it. Whereas here, you know, if I don't like the color of one of them, then there's 8 more to choose between. And when it came to the palettes that I decluttered, I didn't like the texture or consistency of those blushes, and so it wasn't even just about the color. It was like, well, the textures aren't good. And the eyeshadow palettes that I have, I don't have an issue with any of the textures or consistencies. Like, I haven't found any of them to be too powdery or to have too much fallout. I'm not saying these are all like perfect palettes, but I haven't objected to their formula in the way that I objected to the formula of the blushes that I did declutter. So for that reason, it has been a lot more challenging than I expected to make a decision either way with any of the eyeshadow palettes. So let's do a quick recap of what the eyeshadow focuses have been throughout the year. So I started off the year, this was my January palette, loved it. This was decluttered to me by a friend. So fun. This is my most colorful palette for sure. Oh, you can see my lap. And I'm so glad to have this in my collection. Just super vibrant shades. A lot of them I don't have anywhere else in my collection. Maybe all of them. Like, honestly, these shades are all super unique to my collection because I don't have that many eyeshadows. As I mentioned, I have 12 palettes. So this is a great one. I had such a fun time in January. And then my February palette was this ColourPop one. And as much as I said in that previous video, I don't love this. There's only 3 shades that I love. Unfortunately, after playing around with it some, I realized that there was a lot more shades that I loved than I expected. And I think I talked about this in some previous updates, or at least some like TikToks or YouTube shorts that I made. Some of these shades down here look super cool toned, but on the eyes, they actually are super pretty and not too cool toned for me. Let me swatch some of them. You know what these shades remind me of? I don't have the palette, but there is this Flower Lights palette, or Flower? Yeah, the Flower Lights palette that Sarah Rose talks about all the time. And so those are the 4 shades that I just swatched. It looks like those shades. Like, it looks kind of pinky, which is surprising because in here I feel like the shades look all like brown, like charcoal brown, but they're super pretty on the eyes. I don't reach for shimmers as much as I do matte, so I think it is still going to be a bit tricky to reach for it organically, but I still want to keep this because those shades are really pretty. I will try to insert some pictures of when I did makeup looks with these shades, but like, they're just such nice shimmers. Like, they're not too deep, they're kind of rosy. and I just can't declutter it. I went like 2 weeks out of the month thinking I was going to declutter it, and then in the latter half of the month I tried a couple of of the shades that I had just not reached for because they looked too deep for me, and then I was like, damn. No, I have to keep this. It's so pretty. So, yep, this is sticking around. For good or for bad. No, at a later date, maybe I will end up decluttering these things, but not for now. I started off the year so strong with my declutters. I think I decluttered 8 makeup products in January, and then we just quickly went downhill. Okay, this was my March palette, and again, don't love all of the shades in here. I really like that orange. You can see that it's gotten the most use out of it. That's a nice dusty pink, and then this is my favorite liner shade. I actually considered, oh yeah, I guess I should give some background. I got married recently and I hired a makeup artist. However, the makeup trial went really badly, so I decided to just do my own makeup for the wedding. And I basically looked back through YouTube videos, through selfies that I'd taken over the past couple of years to figure out what look I felt the best in and what was like the most flattering. And I actually really love a super dramatic wing, and then when I sort of double line the wing with this shade. So I considered doing that for the wedding, like a black liner and then this sort of on top of the black liner, but I was like, no, that's a little bit too out there. I think I'm just gonna do like a black liner and like a pink eyeshadow look. So, but yeah, honestly, because of that one shade, it's kind of worth keeping because I don't have that shade anywhere else in my collection. I don't use the other shades a ton, but can't seem to declutter this. I really enjoyed those middle shades during the month of March. I didn't use them too much as blushes because I am also doing a blush roulette this year, but they do work really well as blushes. And I recreated my bridal makeup look today. I actually did an entire video talking through, you know, wedding culture, wedding overconsumption. These flowers are from my wedding, this necklace. But yeah, really happy with how my makeup came out overall. And I am keeping this. And I do want to do that look with the black liner and then the burgundy liner on top of it sometime soon because, well, I'll insert some pictures. Like, it's just, I love the way it makes my eyes look. It's just such a good look and so dramatic. And the next couple months, I mean, it's finally summer. The first few months of the year, I wasn't doing my makeup a ton, but summer there tends to be like more social events. And I now feel like I'm better at my makeup because of what I learned throughout the process of practicing for my bridal makeup. So I think I'm gonna have a lot of fun this summer. However, I do kind of have a worry that because I have gotten this like bridal makeup look locked down, and I just think it's so nice and it's like the most flattering on me, and I always get the most compliments when I do this makeup, including from viewers, that I'm just gonna want to do that for every opportunity. Like, just within the course of the next 3 weeks, I have 1 bridal shower and 2 weddings. So I fear I'm going to be repeating this makeup look over and over again, and I need to get out of that zone. Like, I still want to be creative with makeup. I don't want to just stick to one makeup look, because this is something I've been thinking a lot lately, that like, I think the reason people don't get creative with makeup and don't wear different eyeshadows and try out different techniques and whatnot is because, someone said this in a comment at some point, but they want to look pretty. And sometimes if you're doing a super dramatic eye look, you don't necessarily look as pretty as you could. Like, I do, how do I phrase this? My bridal wedding makeup look, I see it as like the prettiest makeup look for myself, like the most flattering. My eyes look the best. My face looks super like sculpted and everything. But that doesn't mean that I want to look my prettiest every day. I want to have fun with makeup. I want to wear red eyeshadow some days. I want to wear green eyeshadow. I want to wear dark lipstick. I want to do blush draping with a hot pink blush. You know, like, I appreciate these looks, and I think makeup girlies appreciate these looks, but if I'm just trying to look as pretty as I can, then I'm going to do the same makeup look every single day, and I'm not going to feel like fulfilled creatively, even if I am like looking the best that I can. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I have been thinking about that lately. Again, I love this makeup look, and I do think it is best like for weddings. So maybe I wouldn't do like a green eyeshadow look for a friend's wedding, but if I'm going to a baseball game, which I am tonight, or if I'm going on a patio, which I am in a couple days, like for those kinds of events, I can be creative with my makeup. And that leads me into my discussion of my April palette. I'm gonna have to check what my May palette was supposed to be, because the whole wedding thing really threw me off in terms of the makeup that I was planning to do each month. I was like, I have a set April blush, I have a set April eyeshadow, May, set May blush, set May eyeshadow, and I just kind of had to ignore that because I got some new makeup products and I needed to practice my looks and like, look at these shades. Like, this is not what I was gonna wear on my wedding day, and I just kind of had to ignore it. Like, I think I probably did this like a couple of times, but really not that much because I was so focused on practicing my look. And I couldn't have seen that coming, but it still felt like kind of sucky to know that I was like failing these projects that I had set out for myself. Blush, it was a bit easier to stick to because like it didn't make as much a difference if when I was practicing my bridal makeup look, I was using this blush, for instance, like this was my April blush. So I was still able to do this practicing my look. But, if I'm practicing my light pink and light brown eyeshadow look, I'm not going to get to use this. So unfortunately, this did not get the appreciation it needed. And I feel like it's now too late in the year to use it. Like, don't get me wrong, I for sure could. But to me, this is like fall, winter eyeshadow looks. And I think it's beautiful. Like, I can swatch some of these. Like, it's so buttery, the textures. It reminds me of like Pan Am. In the Hunger Games, just like the colors of Pan Am somehow. I have Hunger Games on my mind right now because I'm reading the Sunset on the Reaping book, which, by the way, people are obsessed with. It seems like it's written by a different author than the first four, like compared to the first three and then the prequel. I thought the prequel was a lot better than this one. At least it seemed like it was written by Suzanne Collins. It's fine, but I don't know. I'm disappointed, especially because it's so hyped. But like, look at those colors. Like, the color payoff, that's incredible. That being said, it's so much more punchy on the eyes. If I don't want to do an eyeshadow look, I can still use like a light pink and like no one can tell I'm wearing eyeshadow. But if I'm wearing these, like I really have to commit to wearing eyeshadow. Do you know what I mean? And I don't always want to commit to wearing eyeshadow. So that's tricky. I'll see if I can insert some pictures of when I did wear these because it's pretty, but I don't think it's like my best look. Going back to like what is the prettiest on me. Beautiful shades, but not as flattering as a light pink. That being said, I don't want to get rid of it. I thought I would, but I can't do it. I think it deserves another month though of trying it out because I got so little use out of it in April. Okay, so those were the first few eyeshadow palettes. Maybe it would be funny if I showed you what palettes I've actually been using for the past month because it would be no surprise. It's my Nude Light Huda Beauty. I don't even need to toss this into the eyeshadow roulette because I get so much organic use out of this. And my Naked Heat palette. These are for sure my most used eyeshadow palettes in my collection. Okay, so I went back and I watched my previous video, the eyeshadow roulette video, and I had only determined the first 4 palettes of the year. So now it is time to talk about the next 3 or 4 eyeshadow palettes that I will be using, I guess, for the summer, my summer palettes. And obviously summer is a more fun time eyeshadow wise, at least for me. I know obviously a lot of people love those like deep shimmers, like rich greens and bronzy shades, which, as I mentioned, to me I associate more with like fall and winter, though of course you can wear any shade any time of year, but I feel like I thrive in the summer. So let's talk about the summer palettes that I will be using. These ones are smaller. You see how these, like all of these are big? These ones are small, but I'm going to be talking about 3 palettes, and I think it makes sense to pull each of these Juvia's Place palettes in a little bit over the next couple of months, just because they, especially this one, did not get the appreciation that it deserves during their months. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to reach for that in June. Just like, I don't know. But this one, especially because, as I mentioned, I want to do some looks with this as liner, and these are just nice blushes, and I feel like I didn't fully use them as much as I could have when I had the palette in, because I was focusing on my blush Roulette. So at least a couple more uses I want to get out of that one. And yeah, let's move on to the actual palettes that I will be using. So you can see this orange one on the top is my Orange You Glad from ColourPop, and I think I have phased out a little bit from orange. It used to be my favorite eyeshadow shade to wear. I just loved how bright and colorful it was. Man, I should be careful. Oh my god. I'm wearing like a fully white outfit. I just looked down. I have stains like all over the place. Yeah, this is new. Ooh. Well, this top is from my last clothing swap, and these shorts are part of a like bridal outfit that my friends got for me. Anyways, Orange You Glad. Such fun shades. I used to be obsessed with orange eyeshadow, and they're still so fun. Like, I love that. I think it really makes the eyes pop, but I just don't wear orange as much anymore. I just think pink is a better eyeshadow shade on me. And there's a lot of shimmers also. And as you may have gathered, I don't love shimmers. I don't reach for it organically. I think it's beautiful, but I just think that mattes are more flattering on me. But I haven't reached this probably since last summer, so it needs to get some more use, needs to get some more appreciation, and it's such a springy, summery palette, so I am going to be pulling that in for the rest of May, maybe a little bit of June, because as I mentioned, right now it is end of May. There's about a week left in May, so I probably need to give this maybe half of June, and we'll see how it goes after that. Maybe I will have 2 palettes in June just to sort of like balance it out. People had suggested that in my comments, especially when I was bringing in palettes that were all shimmers or predominantly shimmers. A lot of people said maybe you should have 1 shimmer palette and 1 matte palette, which, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But it's so cute and I love it, but it's just not my like organic reach for anymore. But yeah, I think that this is going to be a lot of fun. Anyways, let me swatch this middle shimmer. I think I get the most use out of this middle shimmer just because it's unique. Like the other shimmers, I definitely have bronzy, goldy orange shimmers, but that middle shade, I have nothing like that. Look at that. Just such huge sparkles and like, yeah, wow. It's the kind of shade that like if I wanted to put shimmer on my actual body, like here, that is a shade that I would use to really bring out the color. Like a beach day or a party or something, that would be really fun. Though there's quite a bit of fallout. Oh my god, this was the wrong outfit to wear, but you know, I'm feeling bridal, and also this is a new top from the clothing swap, so I wanted to wear it. But yeah, that'll be fun. The next one is also a very summery palette. This is Yes Please, and I purchased these at the same time. I got them from ColourPop, I think summer 2020, when I was finally starting to figure out what my makeup style was and what my preferences were and color preferences. So that was one of the only things that I purchased that year because I was on a no-buy. And obviously this is super colorful. I love that yellow. I probably need more yellows. It's one of the only yellows in my collection. I love yellow on my eyes. Some nice reds, although I wish they were more red. They actually show up more orange on the eye than you would think. That's a pretty shimmer. Don't love that shimmer just because it's so gold, and I don't love gold shimmer. And you would think that I would reach for this all the time, but it has been tough to use it organically for some reason. So let's investigate that, see why I haven't been loving it. I think maybe part of it is the formula. Like, I find ColourPop kind of varies with its formula. Some of the palettes really good. Some of the other ones are like a bit more powdery, and this definitely falls into that category, but it is good. And this is a nice light brown. Like, that's my preferred brown shade. This one, way too deep. This one, perfect. So it's got some good shades. That's like a nice cream, And yeah, a lot of variety. You can have a lot of different shade combinations within this palette. So I'm excited to use that in June and maybe July, just depending on how things shake out. And then the final palette that I will be using is this one. And I'm pulling this in because this was gifted to me. This might have been like a Christmas Hanukkah present this past year, or was it in 2024 at some point? I don't know, but this is fairly new. And there's a couple shades that I really enjoy, but a lot of them, as you can see, like these are just super taupey. I don't use those sorts of shades a ton. So I think they're untouched. Like you can see this one and this one and that one. I have used all of those, but a lot of them like literally never reached for. Which is, yeah, not great. So I probably should. Maybe they'll be a little bit less taupe and a little bit more brown. Like a cool shimmer, that's tough for me. I don't love cool tones. I don't love shimmers, but I need to get some use out of it. And maybe if I use it in combination with one of those, then it'll work out better. The names are really cute, but they do sound a little bit more fall-y to me, like chai, brulee, hazelnut, nutmeg, cinnamon. Like that feels very autumnal, but you know what? We're gonna try it out. I do have another palette that is much more summery than this one, which actually that would make sense as my next palette to use, but this is just the least used palette in my collection because it is so new and because it was a gift, and so it's not necessarily all shades that I organically reach for, and I want to get more use out of it. So we'll see how that goes. I am going to try to be a little bit more chill because, yeah, I mean, this this eyeshadow palette Roulette has already not gone according to plan, and I've already kind of given up on the idea that I will be decluttering any eyeshadow palettes this year. So, you know, that's not great because I am trying to get down to a very specific number of products in 2025, and I did just bring in a bunch of new products because of my wedding makeup, but hopefully somehow it'll all work out in the, you know, Q2 of 2025. I will be using up a lot of makeup. Let's cross our fingers. But yeah, that is going to be it for this eyeshadow palette Roulette. Let's talk about a book I've been reading lately because it is kind of on theme. So I actually just finished it this morning. I was trying to finish it before my wedding because it's called I Do, I think, Conversations About Modern Marriage or something like that by Alison Raskin. I think I heard about this on the podcast, What Should I Read Next? And I was like, oh, perfect timing. I'm about to get married. Let's listen to a book to see if I actually do believe in the institution of marriage. But it's not actually aimed at where myself and my partner were at. Like, I thought it was like, listen to this right before your wedding to like know what to expect out of marriage and like make sure you're making the right decision. But it's more like earlier on in your relationship when you start having the marriage conversation, whether or not it's right for you and that kind of thing. So I was like, well, you know, I'm still going to finish listening to it, but I don't need to make a decision about whether or not I'm going to get married because I'm about to get married, you know? But yeah, it was interesting. I think it would be helpful for people who are trying to figure out whether or not they want to get married, if their partner is right for them, and to think about different things. Like it talks a lot about prenups or marriage contracts, which are kind of taboo, but need to be discussed more. They very much need to be destigmatized. Also, like equal relationships and partnerships and how to ensure that you are in an equal relationship. You know, like she talks a lot about the patriarchy and how that has affected weddings and the institution of marriage. So yeah, I thought it was interesting. She also interviews a lot of like psychologists and researchers who talk about different studies and like about marriage as a whole, and she interviews a lot of people who are in different types of relationships, people who are polyamorous, queer folks, people from different cultural backgrounds. So I really appreciated her bringing that all in because obviously as one individual you have a very myopic perspective and you can only talk about your own marriage, but I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it was like amazing, but maybe if you've never thought too deeply about marriage and the, you know, patriarchal traditions therein, all that stuff, I think she brought some really interesting ideas to the surface. And I like that she didn't just focus on monogamy or on like the typical like North American wedding. And by that I mean like white or like waspy, although she's Jewish, so that wasn't really the case. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you're doing an eyeshadow roulette this year or a blush roulette or any of that stuff, how your relationship to your makeup collection is going this year. I hope that all is well with you. You're having a lovely spring. I so appreciate you. These beautiful flowers. I'm in a great mood. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.